Alrighty. Okay. Okay, we're on ethics. Can anybody tell me what ethics, chapter 6, learning objectives. Let me make it larger for you guys. Okay. It says, your learning objectives to list 4 current ethical issues of concern in 21st century healthcare, explain the differences among ethics, morals, and values. So you all need to be able to define those words. Differentiate between, differentiate between personal and professional ethics, identify ethical elements in your state's Nurse Practice Act, describe how the role of nursing has changed since the introduction of the nursing process and critical thinking into the nursing curriculum. Discuss how, I keep hearing talking, so I'm stopping. Now discuss how non-maleficence is more complex than the definition of do no harm. Differentiate between beneficence and paternal beneficence. So you all need to know those terms. Explain the steps for autonomous decision. Describe how fidelity affects nursing care. Discuss how a nurse applies the principle of justice to nursing. Differentiate between ethical and legal responsibilities in nursing. So in order for you all to take any of your classes, you definitely need to read your PowerPoints, read your notes, read your book, and know in these chapters, what your learning objectives are. Because trust me, your questions are going to be in reference to a lot of those objectives. Okay, introduction here. Let's see. You all have your PowerPoint, so I'm not gonna discuss, I'm not gonna mention all these different PowerPoints because you all have it on your Canvas. This class would be 2 hours long if I had to read out all of this. So you all take notes from this, read your PowerPoints, print them out if that helps. I know printing out stuff helps me to print out the PowerPoints. In this particular introduction, there are a lot of legal and ethical issues in 21st century healthcare, which is true. I mean, concerns are the vitro fertilization, artificial insemination, surrogate motherhood, cloning. All of those are big ethical and legal issues, as well as all of this. And I'm sure that some of you all have had to face, either as a patient, as a CNA, CMA, dental assistant, anybody in the medical field, anybody who's had a family member in the hospital, you have been a part of, or will be a part of, or have seen ethical and legal issues concerning the patients that nurses take care of. Understanding your own ethics is the first step in providing unbiased ethical care to your patients. So understanding what your own ethics and how you feel about certain things will give you an unbiased decision, are concerned about caring for your patient. Description and scope of ethics. Know these terms. Ethics is a system of standards of our moral principles that direct actions as being right or wrong. So you have to think of it as what actions are right, what's wrong, if one ought to do something, if one has the right to do something, if one has the duty to do something. So you have to look at all these points when you're talking about ethics. Morals and values. It describes what morals are, concerned with dealing with the right or wrong behavior or conduct and character. Internal and personal values involve the worth you assign to an idea or an action. It's freely chosen. It's affected by a person's age, their experience, and their maturity. Law is thought of as a minimal ethic that is written and enforced. Now, I'm going to tell you something about this chapter. These terms can be challenging, okay? So you really have to read your book, because this book, chapter 6, gives you examples of what these terms mean. Because on your exams and on your NCLEX, the test you take at the very end of your career, will rely on you knowing this information. And it's important to know these information. So when you get out in the real world of nursing as new nurses, and even as seasoned nurses, you all will have or be exposed to an ethical dilemma or situation that you all have to look at a particular way. So it's important to learn these terms, to know examples of these terms, and how you solution these terms, if there is a solution, because sometimes there isn't one. There's no matter what you do, you can't fix something at that time. That's why they have ethical committees at any hospital that you work at. They have ethical committees. So when you run across a problem that's an ethical situation, you talk to your charge nurse, and if your charge nurse can't resolve it, then it can be taken to an ethical committee, which is a group of professionals. It could be a social worker, a doctor, a pharmacist, a psychiatrist, made up of other nurses that will help try to resolve this dilemma that you all are facing with the patient or even with yourself. Comparison of legal aspects of nursing and ethics. Nursing ethics are similar to, but also different from the legal aspects that regulate your nursing. There's nursing ethics, and then there's legal ethics. Some of them have similar definitions, but I would really strongly urge you to look at page 74. It's table 6.1. And it tells you the difference between and the similarities of nursing ethics to legal aspects of your nursing practice. Now, this ethical codes of the National Association for Practical Nurse Education and Service. And in other words, this long word is the NAPNES. NAPNE, what we call it. And the other one is National Federation of Licensed Practical Nurses. This is you guys' law, okay? You need to know these things. It's even in your career, at the end of your nursing program, this conversation is going to come up again, and we're going to even discuss it more in scenarios and stuff like that, because this is very important for you guys to know the Nursing Practice Act, which is the law of which practical nurses abide by, and RNs have their Nurse Practice Acts as well. You need to learn this. You do have an example of it in the back of your book. If you ever look through the back of your book, your concepts book, it gives you information and laws and codes that you need to abide by. Those laws are going to protect your license. It defines what your duties are as a licensed practical nurse, okay? So y'all definitely need to know what law is. Just like you know when you're driving a car, you know what by law what you can and cannot do. This is what you guys need to know. The Nurse Practice Act and these different associations. Okay, so it safeguards the confidential information acquired from any source about the patient. It provides health care to all patients, regardless of race, creed, cultural background. These are the codes that I'm talking about. That's within these organizations, these laws. Part of these laws are refusing to give endorsement to the sale and promotion of commercial products or services. And all this is in your book. Uphold the highest standards in personal appearance, language, dress, and demeanor. All of this is in your Nurse Practice Act. Adhere to a community standard of justice, honesty, and good morals. You need to stay informed about issues affecting the practice of nursing and the delivery of healthcare. And where appropriate, participate in government and policy decisions. You need to accept the responsibility for safe nursing practice by keeping mentally and physically fit and educationally prepared to practice. So you're going to accept the responsibility, again, for safe nursing practice by keeping mentally and physically fit and educationally prepared to practice. So you need to stay on top of your CEUs, your education, but because that's required to renew your license every 2 years. You're going to be required a number of hours that you need to submit to your nursing, to your, God, I can't even say it, to the Texas Board of Nursing, I'm sorry, the Texas Board of Nursing, before you can even complete or renew your license. You have to have so many hours of continued education. You're going to strive to deliver the highest quality of care, keeping current with best practices and the use of information technology. You're going to have to accept the responsibility for membership into the NFLPN or the LPN, LBN organizations. And basically it's telling you to become a part of these different organizations, because they're going to help keep you informed of what's new and what's going on in your practice as an LVN. So moving right along here. Your personal code of ethics. Your personal ethics provides personal guidelines for living. Your personal code of ethics will influence your nursing ethics. So there are certain things that you guys are very personal about. I mean, some of you all might have might be of a particular religion. You might have certain values about, like for me, I once had a problem with taking care of, I think I've mentioned this to y'all before, is that when I was working in the prison, I made the mistake of reading this guy's travel card. And he happened to be homosexual. He was an inmate serving a life sentence for raping about 6 kids under the age of 10 years old. He had AIDS. And when I found that out about him, I had a whole different attitude about him, and I didn't want to deal with him, and I didn't want to talk to him or take care of him. But as a nurse, no matter what your personal ethics are, you have to take care of those patients. So if you have a problem with dealing with a certain type of patient, for whatever reason, you can't say no to taking care of that patient, and you have to treat them like you treat any other patient. Are you going to face lawsuits? Or you might even face getting fired from not doing certain things. So I would suggest to you all, when you're out there in the world and you're looking for jobs, you need to kind of redo your research and find out what type of patients are, what is required of you if you have certain types of patients, okay? Um, but the bottom line is you have to treat everybody the same, no matter what their personal preferences are or whatever, okay? Sometimes personal ethics conflict with the law. When this occurred, you have an obligation to follow the law. Nurses need to separate their personal ethics from nursing ethics. You are legally expected to care for a patient regardless of his and her lifestyle, social, economic status, race, religion, political differences. You have to care for those patients. Okay. Anybody have any questions thus far? Okay. Move it pretty a little faster then. Ethical decisions in healthcare ethics committee, what I mentioned earlier, you know, it helps to assist with ethical decisions. So if you have a problem dealing with a certain type of patient because of your personal ethics and how you feel about certain things, that's what the ethics committee is for, to help you with that. And your charge nurse can help you if you need help with any situation like that. Ethical decisions in healthcare, Western, uh-oh, did I overshoot myself? Hold on. Oh, I guess I didn't. Okay, okay. Ethical decisions, rights of the individual, individual autonomy, individual rights. Patients have the right to consent to care. They have a right to choose between alternative treatments. They have right to consent or refuse treatment, and women's rights over their own bodies. So these are individual rights of patients and as you guys as patients. Ethical responsibilities of nurses. There are four that we're gonna discuss this. Patient advocacy. Nurses are advocates of their patient. This is one of our key roles of nursing, being our patient's advocate. And it's informing the patient of the plan of care is essential. Telling your patients what you're going to do or what's expected in their plan of care is important. It's done in collaboration with the RN. So you don't do this basically on your own. You collaborate with the RN. At one time, the LVNs wasn't collaborating. Even the physicians weren't collaborating with the nurses. It used to be the physician's way or no way. We still have to uh, do what the physicians order us to do, but at the same time, as nurses now, we have a responsibility to our patients to make sure that everything is done safely, that they understand what's being done to them, and give them the opportunity to be a part of their own care. Okay, so that's what patient advocacy is, and you need to fully understand your role as an advocate. Your job is to make sure that your patient has enough knowledge and resources to make an informed decision. If not, if they don't, if you don't have the knowledge or the resources, you need to seek them out. The nurse promotes advocacy for and protects the rights, health, and safety of the patient. So that's the advocacy role. So you all definitely need to know what an advocate does or what it means. You definitely need to know that. Accountability. All of this is under ethical responsibilities of nurses. Accountability. You are answerable to yourself, to your assigned patient, family, supervisor, the healthcare team, and your instructor. You're accountable to all nursing actions you perform or are assigned to. Measures of accountability, nursing standards of practice is what a nurse with your education and experience would do in a situation. So you are accountable for your actions as nurses. So whatever you do, you are responsible for. College reporting. See something, do something, say something. So basically what it's saying is that if you see a colleague of yours, whether it be a doctor, a nurse, your manager, if you see or something that is not right, that could cause harm to the team, cause harm to the patient, cause harm in general, you are responsible and accountable for letting someone know. Ignoring it and then finding out later that you knew about it and you didn't say anything makes you as guilty as the person who is performing that action. So remember that. So if you experience or see verbal or physical abuse of a patient, you need to report it. If you see a nurse that's impaired, she might have went out last night, she got a hangover, she's giving the wrong drug to the wrong patient, if she's stealing drugs from the patient or from the medication cart, you need to let people know. You need to let your charge nurse know. If it's your charge nurse, you let the manager know. If it's the manager, you go to the director of nurses. You have to follow the order of command, okay? If you see someone stealing drugs or sleeping on duty, leaving unstable patients by themselves, if you see any wrong action, it's your responsibility to tell someone. System-based issues, which is identifying system-based problems. For example, if a new procedure is implemented without the proper education and training, you need to let them know. So say, for instance, you're given a drug. You're required to do let me do this. You're required to do a procedure that you've never done before. The first thing you do, if you're required to do a procedure, you need to read up on it. If you're uncomfortable with it, you need to get someone to help you, assist you with it, but you also need to be accountable and read and seek the resources needed to perform this procedure. Now, if it's something totally new that has never been brought to the unit's attention, you need to notify administration and suggest a plan to engage in safe practice. Like when I was working in chemotherapy, we had a lot of what's called clinical trials. And some clinical trials we knew of, but some trials was just right out of the lab. And we were having to give patients medicines that we didn't know a thing about. And sometimes the research nurse would just say, oh, y'all getting a new drug, getting drug A, and you need to give it over an hour, and the patient, there's no symptoms as far as we know, or I don't know what the symptoms are. Y'all just need to give the drug, follow the instructions. No, that is not the proper way to be introduced to something brand new to a unit. That person, we had to get a research nurse and the pharmacist to get involved to bring that practice to us so we could do it properly and safe for our patients. So that's what system-based issues are. Things that you've never seen before, that no one else has seen on the floor before. You need to seek out resources to help with the education of something new to your unit. Principles of ethics, very important. Non-maleficence means, and y'all got to know these too, means do no harm. Beneficence, the opposite, do good. Autonomy is free to choose. You're going to hear those words a lot of times. Autonomy, a patient has the right to refuse drugs. A patient has the right to refuse treatment. A patient has the right to not have a student nurse take care of them. A patient has the right to not be bothered if they don't want to be bothered. I mean, when a patient refuses, what do y'all do? If a patient refuses something, what do you do? Guys, what do you do when a patient refuses something that the doctor has ordered for you to do?
You try to tell the doctor or document it.
Okay, you definitely have to document and let the doctor know that the patient refused to do it.
There's also like a refusal form that they have to sign.
Some patients won't do that.
Right, true.
I'm just letting you know. A patient has a right to not sign anything if he doesn't want to sign it.
Yeah, that is true.
So that's a good point, though. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of places do have those forms, but a patient doesn't have to sign it. So you definitely, it's important that you chart and you let the doctor know, because you are accountable for whatever's on those doctor's orders. You're accountable for doing it, following the instructions for the care of that patient. So if the patient is refusing treatment, you need to chart it. You need to chart it. And it might be to go a little further, find out why they don't want it. Sometimes, you know, they have their reasons. Sometimes it might be because they just simply don't understand what you're about to do. So of course, as nurses, when you come in and do something, you need to let your patient know what you're gonna do. So they'll make a conscious decision on whether, I don't want that, to say that, okay? Because they can easily say, well, she didn't even tell me about this medication. She just came in and gave it to me. She didn't even tell me, that's why I refused it. Okay, you got to explain to your patient, even though this patient might have had it 20 times, you need to explain to your patient why they're getting whatever they're getting. You got to explain it to them. Oh, fidelity. I'm sorry. I went further with that. Fidelity. Fidelity is basically trust. That's what it is. Oh, I forgot to mention something. Did I go? Oh, I'm sorry. I overstepped non-maleficence. I'm sorry. Let me explain that. I just got ahead of myself. Examples of do no harm would be 6 rights for giving medications. You know, you have to know what the 6 rights are. Because if you don't know the 6 rights, you will do harm to your patient. Checking the temperature of a bath or shower before you put the patient in. That's do no harm. Checking the temperature of a formula before feeding the patient. That's do no harm or non-maleficence. Providing care for your patient, whether when their ethical principles conflict with yours. You know, they might have, for instance, a particular problem, ethical issue that they don't agree to. You can't refuse caring for this patient because you don't agree, your personal beliefs are different from their personal beliefs. You are responsible as nurses, protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's what non-maleficence is, examples of non-maleficence. Protect patients that can't take care of themselves, like a mentally challenged person, an unconscious person, a weak or debilitated person. Those are examples of do no harm. Beneficence is do good. You put the patient's interests first before your own. You place the good of patients before your own needs. For instance, a good example of that would be giving report. That's a beneficence. You just don't walk off the floor just because your relief hasn't shown up yet. Can't do that as nurses. If there's no one to relieve you, you will have to stay with that patient until your relief comes. Walking out just because I gotta leave, I got someone sick at home, I have an emergency, is abandonment, and that's illegal as nurses. So giving report is an example of doing good for your patient and putting the patient's need ahead of your own need. Same way with charge nurses. When you see charge nurses that may be able to do something, say you might have a charge nurse who's excellent in starting IVs. You know, she might be the only one on the floor that can really start an IV. You've tried for 2 times and somebody else then tried 2 times and you can't get it, and you come to her and say, can you start this IV? And she just brushes you off. That's not showing beneficence. It's that charge nurse, because you all can be charge nurses as well. LVNs can be charge nurses in certain places. If you have a specific talent, you can't refuse that talent because of something else, because it's all about the patient. It's always about the patient, okay? Autonomy, once again, freedom to choose. Thinking through all the facts, acting based on personal decision, knowing what the patient's rights are. All of that is part of autonomy. Fidelity is being true. Be faithful to the charge of acting in the patient's best interest when the capacity to make free choice is no longer available to the patient. So it's
Jackie,
huh?
going back on where if you don't, the person who's going to relieve you doesn't, what if they don't show up to work? What
Well,
do you
do? When they don't show up, listen, when they don't show up for work, you go to your charge nurse. And a lot of times your charge nurse is already, after you end the shift, usually after you've done everything you're supposed to do for your patient, usually the first shift, the outgoing shift and the incoming shift gives report to each other. I know a lot of you all have seen that. They either give a joint report all together, everybody sits around and listens to what each patient, whatever their issues are for that day or what needs to be done, or you might have a one-on-one report with the nurse who's coming on the shift, because that is what you have to do. You can't just say, oh, here's the patient and just go. You have to give report. That's very, very important. And so if that person isn't there, a lot of times the charge nurse will have a schedule showing who's gonna relieve you. If not, you go to your charge nurse and say, hey, it's 7:30 or 7:40, who's gonna relieve me? And you'll probably already know, because as good nurses, you need to let your shift know an hour or 2 ahead of time that you're not showing up, or that you're going to be late and how long you're going to be late. That is your responsibility to do that. Okay?
I gotcha. Okay.
So if your charge nurse should handle that. I mean, if you have to leave because of an emergency, you let your charge nurse know and see if she can get someone to take your place. And then that person you give report to. You just don't walk off because that patient then walked in the building. You have to give report to that nurse coming on to take care of your patient.
All right.
Any questions about, oh, another example of fidelity, breaching infidelity. Discussing a patient in public, at home, with your friends, in the elevator is not only a HIPAA violation, which can get you fired, and cause you to be sued, you cannot discuss patient information in front of other patients to other people that who are not actively involved with your patient. Yes, you could discuss it at the nurse's station with your supervisor or whatever nurse is coming on, but you can't go out in the hallway or down the hall or in the amongst people. That's why a lot of times you'll notice nurses giving report in a room outside of the main nursing unit, because family members are not to hear what you're discussing about any patients at all. And this goes for you as a CNA or a CMA. You are not to discuss a patient in public, or with your family members, or with your friends, or on the elevator, because people be looking at you. People be hearing you. People be looking at those name badges, and they will report you. A lot of people will report you. So do not do it. And plus, you don't know who in the elevator you're talking to. It could be the CEO of the hospital. You cannot do it. Doctors cannot do it. Now, you will hear doctors say something about, yes, I had to do this laparoscopy on him and I saw this, but he's not mentioning that person's name, his medical records number. He's not doing none of that. He is not bringing attention to that patient. So you will see doctors do that. Justice. Uh-oh. What happened to, oh, God. Oh, so that's what justice is fairness to all, meaning you deliver fair and equal treatment to all patients, recognizing and avoiding personal bias. So, for instance, a perfect example is what I was mentioning about this HIV. Okay, I can't, okay, I'm not happy about this guy who didn't rape these kids, but I know I got to take care of him. But I'm not going to change my way of his treatment because I don't like what he represents, who he is, and what he's done. You have to be fair to everybody on this with the same level of care, no matter what your biases, your personal biases are. That's what justice for all means. Being fair does that mean giving every patient the same thing? That's what you treat everyone the same with dignity and respect. Each patient with the same diagnosis should receive the same level of care. And examples are on page 81 in your book. The role of beneficent paternalism. That's a hard word to say. Beneficent paternalism is a disrespectful attitude toward the patient and what the patient has to contribute to personal care and recovery. When assisting to collect data, really hear what the patient is trying to tell you. Listen to what your patient tells you. The patient can give you a lot of good information, if you know, especially if they're oriented times 3. Listen to your patient. Don't assume that a patient isn't in pain. If he tells you he's in pain, you accept that. Even though you gave him a Tylenol number 3 30 minutes ago, if you're supposed to reassess him once you give him the pain medicine anyways. If he tells you he's still in pain, you chart that he's still in pain. You can't say, oh, you couldn't be in pain. This medicine works within 30 minutes. You could be in pain. That's an example of beneficent paternalism. In other words, you're telling a patient what you think and how you think they're supposed to be treated or act. So assisting with developing the care plan without the patient's input. So you're sitting up there doing the care plan and you haven't discussed it with the patient. You just come up with your own set of, okay, this is what we do. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, without asking the patient's opinion. That's an example of beneficent paternalism. If the patient has agreed to the patient care plan, then encouraging the patient to go along with that care plan works better. And that shows that you're showing beneficence. So you work with your patient so you don't become a beneficent paternalism. Like, for instance, another example, if a doctor, and I'm sure y'all heard this before, where a doctor will come and say something to you, well, as a doctor, I know what you need. Or if they say something to the effect of, well, if I were you, like if, for instance, you would tell the patient when he's trying to think of how to care for himself, you say something like, well, if I were you, I would do this. You're putting your own personal biases or your personal advice on this patient and not giving him the chance to take care of himself. So you have to kind of avoid that beneficent paternalism. Do y'all understand what I'm saying here? And that's on page 82. And I'm at the end, guys, believe it or not. In healthcare, paternalism, and women's health. In healthcare, interpreted as doctors know best. That's another way of speaking of paternalism, is when a doctor says the doctor knows best, that as a doctor, I know that you need to do this. It depends on how he says it, but basically he's saying, my way is the way. Or you saying, my way is the way. You should be careful in how you talk to patients in regards to that. Because remember, you want the patient to have informed consent, which means that they understand the cons, the pros and the cons of their treatment and their care. You want to give them evidence-based practice and not put your way of doing things on the patient. So anything that is normally different from men is considered an illness and requires the physician's intervention, like menstruation and pregnancy and menopause. Sometimes males have a tendency to put that I know best attitude toward women. If you see that in practice, that might be something you might want to pull a person off to the side and say, you know what, I think it would be a better way to handle this, or talk to your patient. Because patients are afraid of doctors. They kind of like do whatever the doctor says, and sometimes they're afraid to even ask questions. So that's why they come to you guys for answers. So you have to know how to talk to your patients and what's right and what's not, and advocate for your patient. And I don't know what time it is. What time is it? Oh, I got 1 minute, guys. Is that all I have? What time y'all have? Okay. Well, I'm at the end, but guess what? Next week, we're going to do some case studies. I'm going to ask you guys some questions in the beginning, just some quick questions to refresh your memory and to see where you at and where you've read. You know, and let me just tell you this real quickly. Y'all have to participate. The quad ones, that's part of your grade, is participation. So if I see y'all not participating, which means not asking questions, not making comments on how you feel about whatever subject, I already know the ones who always answer questions. I mean, there's about 5 of y'all that just really are active and participate. Then I have like maybe 4 others that occasionally participate in that. And then I have some that never says anything. They just listen. Those are the ones, unfortunately, you guys, when you don't ask questions or you don't participate, you don't do so well on your exam. So I just want y'all to be aware that you need to participate and ask questions, because this is very important. We're getting to a part of, we're in our 4th week, and we're getting to areas that are directly geared toward you all becoming nurses. So you need to know these things. So please read your books. And thank you. And do y'all have any questions about anything? Otherwise, you all can go. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, nurse. Bye.
Okay, does anybody have any questions before I shoot off? You know, my office is open. And let me tell you this, guys. It is so many of you guys, and which I love, and I hope y'all stay. But I will get to your quizzes, grading those quizzes, like in ATI, when y'all do things out of ATI, they're so much easier to grade than some of my quizzes. So I'm kind of taking my time going through each one of you all's answers. So just bear with me. Y'all have had 2 quizzes, right? Concepts and terminology, or 3? You've had 2. One is coming up. I will be grading them, and I will be posting them sometime this week. So I just want you guys to know that. And the ones that I've already spoken to those individuals, the ones that are having some issues, let me just say this, guys, with the few that's on here, help your fellow classmate if they have any issues with the computers and stuff like that. Please help them and assist them. And sometimes, I'm gonna be honest with you, as a baby boomer, I hate to ask people questions, because, especially younger people, because I feel sometimes younger people think we should know these things, but guess what? We weren't born in the computer age, okay? We weren't. Some of
us today, like it's hard. Like I transitioned from one type of computer to the other, and I was so lost.
Yeah, so help one another. Please help each other, because at some point they're going to reach out and help you guys. So just think about that. Think about that. And that's all I have to say.
Nurse Jokes, do you have an email address or something? Or
Yes.
I don't think I have your number.
The email address is on your syllabus, but I can tell you what it is. Y'all guys got to read your syllabus. It's on your
Or
syllabus.
your cell phone number?
It's
Are you
at chcp.edu. JLKS. JJolks at chcp.edu. And I think you all have my phone number. You can text me, you know, if you have any real issues, or if you're going to be late, or if you're not going to be present, or if you have to leave early, you need to just text me, because everything has to be, I have to have physical evidence of your comments or questions. Okay, so please definitely email it me if it's something just like extremely important, because like I said, I'm only here an hour after this course, because I don't work full time. If you really need to catch me, I mean, if it's really important, you can text me, and then if I don't respond within an hour, you can give me a call. But text me and let me know that, you know, you're having an issue and you need to talk to me.
Can we have your cell? I don't have it.
Oh my God. Hold on, because I don't know it by heart. Hold on. Let me give it to you. Just a second. I don't even have it. Oh, no. Give me a moment. See, I don't have that phone on me right now. Hold on. I have my my own. Oh, here it is. Okay. It's 832-657-2262.
Okay.
All righty, guys. Any other questions?
No,
When is
that's
our
it.
next, so when can we expect like our next exam with you right now?
Let me see. Hold on. Let's look at the calendar. Like, y'all are making me look at the syphilis, syllabus. Oh my God.
What you doing in here? Oh my Lord.
Wait a minute.
Oh, still recording too. Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Professor Duan.
Looking at no syphilis, Miss
I
Joe.
came in at just the right time.
We don't want you looking at no syphilis at all on this computer.
Time.
Oh, jeez.
Lord have mercy.
The highlight of the class. Thank you. I'm glad I was here.